The stars had never seemed so cold to Commander Zethral as he stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at the blue planet that filled the view screen. His mind reached out across space, touching the consciousness of his crew, feeling their thoughts blend with his own. This was how civilized beings communicated. This was how the Empire had ruled for thousands of years. But from the planet below, there was only silence. "Nothing, Commander," his sensor officer reported, confusion rippling through their shared mental link. No psychic signatures at all. "The planet is dead to our minds," Zethral frowned. His people, the Velkara, had explored 10,000 worlds. Every species with true consciousness possessed psychic abilities. It was the mark of intelligence, the proof of a thinking mind. Without it, creatures were nothing more than animals, regardless of what tools they might create. "Scan for technology," he ordered. The results came back immediately. Cities covered the planet's surface. Satellites orbited overhead. Radio waves filled the electromagnetic spectrum. Yet still, not a single whisper of thought could be detected. "Impossible," Zethral muttered. "Technology requires intelligence. Intelligence requires the gift." Far below, on the planet humans called Earth, Captain Jake Morrison was having the worst day of his life. He stood in the command center of the UES Horizon, humanity's first vessel capable of traveling beyond the solar system. They had been testing the new quantum drive when the massive alien ships appeared, materializing out of nowhere like ghosts. 20 vessels confirmed, Lieutenant Amy Chen called out from her station. "They're holding position at lunar orbit. No hostile actions yet." Jake ran his hand through his dark hair, feeling the weight of this moment. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and Jake wasn't sure if he should feel excited or terrified. "Open a channel," he said quietly. "All frequencies." Amy worked her console, then nodded. Jake took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change human history forever. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. We come in peace. Welcome to our system." The response came 3 hours later. The delay suggested the aliens needed time to understand human language, which gave Jake hope. Maybe they could find common ground. Maybe this would be the beginning of something wonderful. He was wrong. The alien face that appeared on screen was beautiful in a cold, crystalline way. Sharp features, skin that seemed to shimmer with faint light, eyes that held depths Jake couldn't quite understand. But the expression was one Jake recognized immediately: contempt. "I am Commander Zethral of the Velkara Dominion," the alien said, his words now perfectly translated. "You will submit to Imperial authority. Your world will be cataloged and incorporated into the Empire. Resistance is futile and will be met with immediate correction." Jake blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "We've just met. Don't you want to talk? Learn about each other?" Zethral's expression didn't change. "You possess technology, yet you emit no psychic presence. This indicates you are either hiding your abilities or you are hollow minds, empty vessels mimicking intelligence. Either way, you are irrelevant. The Empire claims this system. You have 30 days to prepare for integration." The screen went dark. Amy stared at Jake, her face pale. Did he just call us stupid animals and demand we surrender? "That's what it sounded like," Jake replied, his mind racing. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command now." The next few hours were chaos. Jake's report was transmitted to Earth at light speed. Government leaders around the world scrambled to respond. The United Earth Council, formed only 5 years earlier after humanity's first successful faster-than-light test, suddenly had to deal with the reality they had always feared. They were not alone, and they were not welcome. President Linda Grant stood before the council chamber, looking at the faces of representatives from every nation on Earth. The message from the horizon played on screens throughout the room. "We have 30 days, she said simply. 30 days before an alien empire with technology far beyond our own comes to take our world. 30 days to prepare for war we cannot win. Can we negotiate?" asked the representative from Asia. "Surely they'll listen to reason." "They called us hollow minds," Linda replied bitterly. "They don't think we're intelligent because we don't have psychic powers. How do you negotiate with someone who thinks you're an animal?" "Then we fight," said Admiral Kyle Bennett, commander of Earth's small defense fleet. "We make it cost them. We show them humans are not animals." "With what?" someone called out. "We have 50 ships. They have thousands of worlds." "This is suicide," Kyle's jaw tightened. Then we die on our feet instead of living on our knees. I didn't spend my life building Earth's fleet just to hand it over to aliens who think we're pets. Linda looked at the Admiral for a long moment, then nodded. Start preparations. Full mobilization, every ship, every weapon, every soldier. We'll show them what humans can do. Back on the horizon, Jake received new orders. He was to remain in position, monitoring the alien fleet and gathering any intelligence possible. It was a suicide mission, but Jake accepted without hesitation. If Earth was going to fight, they needed every advantage they could get. Amy sat beside him during the long watch, monitoring the alien ships that hung in space like floating mountains. "Do you think we can win?" she asked quietly. Jake was silent for a moment. "I think we can surprise them. They're so convinced we're inferior that they won't see us coming. That's something. Is it enough? It has to be." On his flagship, Commander Zethral composed his report to the High Council. He described the human world in clinical terms. Primitive technology, no psychic abilities detected. Population of approximately 8 billion hollow minds. Recommended classification, non-sentient tool users. Recommended action, standard annexation protocols. He never considered that he might be wrong. In his thousands of years of life, Zethral had never encountered a species that challenged the Empire's fundamental beliefs. Psychic ability equaled consciousness. It was a law as certain as gravity. The humans would submit or they would be corrected. Either way, they would learn their place in the Empire. As Zethral sent his report, he felt satisfaction through his mental connection with his crew. Another world would join the Empire. Another species would benefit from Velkara guidance. It was what they did. It was what they had always done. He had no idea that in 30 days everything he believed would be shattered. He had no idea that the hollow minds below would teach the Empire a lesson it would never forget. He had no idea that humanity's greatest weakness would become their ultimate strength. The countdown had begun. In 30 days, the galaxy would change forever. Dr. Henry Liu hadn't slept in 3 days. His laboratory at the Mars Research Station was filled with screens showing data from the alien ships, and none of it made sense. Well, that wasn't quite true. It made perfect sense once you understood what you were looking at. The problem was that what he was looking at shouldn't be possible. They're using brainwaves as their primary communication system, he explained to the video. Conference filled with military and scientific leaders. Not radio, not quantum encryption, actual neural patterns transmitted through space. Every ship in their fleet is connected by a psychic network. Admiral Kyle Bennett leaned forward. "Can we jam it?" "That's the interesting part," Henry said, pulling up another screen. "Traditional jamming won't work because it's not electromagnetic radiation. But I've been studying the patterns. Psychic communication appears to operate on very specific frequencies. If we can generate interference at those frequencies, we might be able to disrupt their coordination." "Might?" President Linda Grant asked. Henry shrugged. "I'm making this up as I go, ma'am. We've never fought telepaths before. But here's what I know. Their ships move in perfect coordination because their crews share thoughts. If we can break that connection even temporarily, they'll be fighting blind." "How long do you need?" Kyle asked. "I have 27 days. Ask me again in 26. In orbit around Earth's moon, Captain Jake Morrison continued his silent watch of the alien fleet. The horizon had been joined by 3 other ships forming humanity's forward observation post. They stayed just close enough to monitor the aliens. Just far enough to run if things went bad. Amy Chen had barely left her station in days, analyzing every scrap of data they collected. "They're not doing anything," she reported. "Just sitting there watching us back. It's like they're waiting." "They are waiting," Jake said. "They gave us 30 days. They're so confident we can't hurt them that they're literally just waiting for the deadline. That's arrogant. That's our advantage." Jake pulled up a tactical display. "Look at their formation. Perfect spacing, perfect geometry. It's beautiful, actually. But it also means they're not prepared for chaos. They expect order." Amy understood immediately. "So we give them chaos." "Exactly. On Earth, the mobilization was unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. Every spaceship capable of combat was being armed. Every defense station was being stocked with weapons. Factories ran 24 hours a day producing missiles, railgun ammunition, and the experimental neural disruptors Henry Liu was frantically developing. But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. President Linda Grant met with Admiral Kyle Bennett in a secure bunker beneath Geneva. On the table between them was a folder marked Exodus Protocol. Worst-case scenario, Linda said quietly. If we lose, if Earth falls, we need to preserve humanity. I want colony ships prepared. Volunteers only. Scientists, engineers, teachers. People who can rebuild if we don't make it. Kyle's face was stone. You're planning for failure. I'm planning for survival. There's a difference. Linda opened the folder. We have 12 deep space transports. We can fit maybe 10,000 people total. They'll head in different directions to different stars. If the Empire finds one, maybe the others will escape. And the 8 billion people who don't get on those ships? Linda's voice cracked slightly. They fight. We all fight, but if we lose, humanity survives somewhere. That has to be enough. Kyle was silent for a long moment. I'll make sure they have enough time to get away. In the Velkara Empire, news of the human discovery was spreading. Commander Zethral's report had reached the High Council, and the response was exactly what he expected. Amusement. High Counselor Vexara, the oldest and most powerful psychic in the Empire, reviewed the data with something approaching curiosity. She was 10,000 years old, and very little surprised her anymore. But this was unusual. A species with technology but no psychic abilities, she mused to the assembled council. How do they coordinate? How do they communicate complex ideas? How do they create without the ability to share thoughts directly? They are hollow minds, another counselor said dismissively. They probably discovered ancient technology left by a true civilization. It happens sometimes. Perhaps, Vexera replied, but their language is complex. Their cities are well organized. Their technology, while primitive, is functional. These are not the marks of animals. What are you suggesting? Vexara was quiet for a moment. I am suggesting we may not understand what we are looking at, but it does not matter. The annexation proceeds as planned. If they resist, they will be corrected. That is the way of the Empire. The Council agreed. They sent a single battle group to enforce compliance, 200 ships carrying 50,000 soldiers, more than enough to handle one primitive world. They had no idea they were making the worst mistake in Imperial history. Back on Mars, Henry Liu finally had his breakthrough. The neural disruptor worked. In testing, it had successfully disrupted the psychic connection between two volunteer telepaths from Earth's small population of psychic humans. The feedback had given both subjects severe headaches, but it proved the concept worked. We can weaponize this, Henry explained to Admiral Kyle. Mount it on our ships, broadcast it at their fleet. It won't hurt them physically, but it'll hurt their minds. They'll lose coordination, maybe even lose consciousness if the feedback is strong enough. Will it kill them? Kyle asked. I don't know. Probably not, but it'll definitely ruin their day. Kyle smiled grimly. That'll do. How many can you build in 2 weeks? All of them. Every ship we have will carry one. The final 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Humanity had never moved so fast, never worked so hard. People who had been enemies weeks before now worked side by side, united by a common threat. Jake Morrison brought the Horizon back to Earth for weapons installation. He watched as Henry Liu's disruptors were mounted alongside conventional railguns and missile pods. The ship looked like it was being held together by hope and determination. Amy found him in the observation deck, looking at Earth hanging beautiful and blue in the distance. Think we'll see it again? She asked. We better, Jake replied. I'm not letting aliens take our home without the fight of their lives. We're going to lose, you know. Even with the disruptors, they have too many ships. Maybe, but we're going to hurt them first. We're going to make them remember us. Jake turned to face her, and maybe, just maybe, we'll surprise them enough to survive. Admiral Kyle Bennett addressed the fleet on the day before battle. 52 ships representing every nation on Earth hung in formation near the moon. It was humanity's entire space navy, and it looked tiny compared to the alien fleet. Tomorrow they're going to attack, Kyle said, his voice broadcast to every ship. They think we're animals. They think we'll roll over and accept slavery. They're wrong. Tomorrow we show them what humans can do. Tomorrow we show them that we are not hollow minds. We are not empty vessels. We are humanity, and we bow to no one. The crew cheered. They knew the odds. They knew most of them wouldn't survive. But they would fight anyway because that's what humans did. On his flagship, Commander Zethral prepared for the easiest battle of his career. His psychic senses told him the humans were gathering their ships, preparing to resist. It was pointless, but he respected the attempt. At least they had spirit. He reached out with his mind, connecting with every crew member across his entire battle group. 200 ships became one entity, one purpose, one unstoppable force. The hollow minds would learn. The Empire always won. It was simply the way of the universe. In a few hours, the first shots would be fired. In a few hours, everything would change. Neither side knew it yet, but the Battle of Luna would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. The countdown continued. Tomorrow, humanity would fight. Tomorrow, the Empire would learn that silence could be stronger than the loudest scream. The battle began at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in space. Admiral Kyle Bennett chose the timing anyway because humans needed the symbolism. As Earth rotated into daylight, his fleet moved into position between the alien ships and home. Commander Zethral watched the human vessels approach with something close to pity. 52 small ships against his battle group of 200. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Final warning, Zethral broadcast to the human fleet. Stand down. Accept Imperial authority. There is no shame in acknowledging superior force. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, surrounded by his crew. Amy Chen was at her station, hands steady on the controls despite the fear he could see in her eyes. Every person on every human ship knew they were probably going to die today. They came anyway. Jake opened the channel. His voice was calm, almost conversational. Commander Zethral, this is Captain Morrison. I have a message for you and your empire. We are not hollow minds. We are not animals. We are human beings, and we do not surrender. So here's my answer to your ultimatum. No. He closed the channel and turned to Amy. Light them up. Every human ship activated their neural disruptors simultaneously. The effect was immediate and devastating. Aboard Zethral's flagship, the psychic network that connected 50,000 minds suddenly filled with noise. It wasn't sound. It was something worse. It was static, chaos, screaming feedback that tore through the careful mental connections the Velkara had maintained. Zethral screamed. He couldn't help it. His mind, so used to the gentle presence of his crew's thoughts, was suddenly drowning in interference. Around him, his officers collapsed. Some grabbed their heads. Others simply fell unconscious, overwhelmed by the feedback. Across the Velkara battle group, 200 ships lost coordination in an instant. Vessels that had moved in perfect formation suddenly drifted. Weapons that had been targeting human ships fired wildly, or not at all. The psychic network that made the Velkara unstoppable had become their greatest weakness. Now, Kyle Bennett shouted. All ships, attack pattern Delta. Hit them while they're blind. The human fleet split into small groups, each targeting a different enemy ship. They moved fast, chaotic, unpredictable. Everything the Velkara were not. Jake pushed the horizon into a dive toward the alien flagship. Amy, keep that disruptor at maximum. Don't let them recover. If I push it any harder, it might overload, Amy called back. Then let it overload. We just need a few more minutes. The horizon's railguns opened fire. Simple kinetic weapons, just chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. The Velkara shields were designed to stop energy weapons, plasma blasts, even psychic attacks. They weren't designed for solid projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The first slug punched through the flagship's shields like they weren't there. The second hit the hull. The third penetrated deep into the ship's interior. Zethral felt the impacts through his pain-addled mind. His ship was being damaged. By hollow minds. By creatures without the gift. It was impossible. It was humiliating. It was happening. Return fire, he tried to order, but the words came out as a psychic shriek that only hurt his crew more. The neural network was completely disrupted. His people, so dependent on mental communication, couldn't coordinate without it. All across the battlefield, human ships darted between confused alien vessels. The odds were still 4-1 against humanity, but those odds meant nothing when the enemy couldn't fight back. Lieutenant Commander Paul Stevens commanded the destroyer Defiant. He led his squadron in a coordinated strike against a cluster of enemy ships. His targeting computer identified weak points in the alien hulls. His missiles found those weaknesses with brutal efficiency. 3 Velkara ships exploded within seconds of each other. Paul allowed himself a grim smile. That's for calling us hollow minds. But the Velkara were adapting. Some crews, less affected by the disruptor, began fighting back. They switched to manual controls, abandoning the psychic network that betrayed them. Alien weapons started finding their targets. The human cruiser Valiant took a direct hit. Its shields failed. Its hull breached. 40 crew members died in an instant. The ship tumbled away, atmosphere venting into space. Admiral Kyle watched grimly as more red icons appeared on his tactical display. The disruptors had given them the advantage, but they were still outnumbered. This was always going to be a sacrifice. All ships concentrate fire on the flagship, he ordered. We take out their commander, maybe the rest will retreat. Jake Morrison heard the order and adjusted course. The horizon was already heavily damaged. They had maybe one more attack run left before something critical failed. Amy, plot an intercept course with the flagship. Full speed. Amy looked at him. Jake, we're barely holding together. One more hit and... I know. Do it anyway. The horizon accelerated toward Zethral's ship, and a dozen other human vessels did the same. They came from different angles, weapons blazing, disruptors screaming interference into the psychic void. Zethral finally managed to pull himself together enough to think clearly. His ship was dying. His fleet was in chaos. The hollow minds were winning and he couldn't understand how. Then he realized they were winning because they were hollow minds. They couldn't be predicted because they had no psychic presence. They couldn't be coordinated against because they didn't think as one. Their very weakness made them invisible to all the senses the Empire relied upon. Full retreat, he ordered through the ship's communication system, forced to use audio like a primitive. All ships, disengage and withdraw. Retreat to hyperspace coordinates. Now. The surviving Velkara ships began jumping away. Their faster-than-light drives activated, creating brilliant flashes as they escaped into other dimensions. Within minutes, the battlefield was clearing, but not fast enough for Zethral. The horizon came at his flagship on a collision course, weapons firing. Jake Morrison's face appeared on the screen, and Zethral saw something in the human's eyes that shocked him. Determination, intelligence, purpose. The eyes of a person, not an animal. "Jump now!" Zethral screamed at his crew. The flagship's drives engaged just as the horizon's final salvo hit. The Velkara vessel disappeared into hyperspace, trailing atmosphere and debris. They would make it, but barely. Jake pulled the horizon out of its attack run, and suddenly the sky was clear. The alien fleet was gone. Only debris remained, floating silent in the dark. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Amy checked her sensors and said in a voice of disbelief, "They're gone. All of them. They jumped away." "Did we win?" someone asked. Kyle Bennett appeared on the fleet-wide channel. His face was haggard but triumphant. "Status report. All ships." The responses came in one by one. 38 human ships remained operational. 14 had been destroyed. Against 200 enemy vessels. Humanity had lost less than a third of their forces and driven the aliens away. "We won," Kyle said simply. "Against all odds, against an empire that spans thousands of worlds, we won." The cheering started in one ship and spread to all of them. Crews who had expected to die were alive. Earth was still free. They had done the impossible. But Jake Morrison didn't cheer. He looked at the debris field where human and alien ships had died together, and he thought about what came next. "This was just one battle group," he said quietly to Amy. "When the Empire hears about this, they'll send more, many more." "I know," Amy replied, "but today we proved something. We proved we can fight. We proved we're not hollow minds." "Yeah," Jake agreed. "We proved it to them. Now they know we're dangerous." On Earth, President Linda Grant received the news with tears of relief and dread. They had won, but at what cost? The Empire would return with overwhelming force. This victory might have just guaranteed Earth's total destruction. Far away, Commander Zethral's damaged flagship limped toward the nearest Imperial outpost. His crew was shattered, physically and mentally. His pride was destroyed. His beliefs were in ruins. The hollow minds had beaten him. They had beaten the Empire. And now he had to go back and explain how creatures without psychic abilities had defeated a force that should have crushed them easily. The galaxy was about to learn a hard truth. Silence could be louder than thought. Emptiness could be stronger than power, and humanity, the species without the gift, was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Battle of Luna was over. But the real war was just beginning. The news spread across the Empire like a virus through a psychic network. On 3,000 worlds, billions of minds connected in their usual way, sharing thoughts and experiences. And what they shared was impossible. The Velkara had been defeated. The Empire's finest had retreated from a battle against hollow minds. High Counselor Vexara felt the disturbance ripple through the collective consciousness. She sat in meditation at the heart of the Imperial capital, her ancient mind processing information from across the galaxy. What she sensed was something she had not felt in 10,000 years: doubt. Commander Zethral stood before the High Council 3 days later. His ship had barely made it back. His crew was still recovering from the neural assault they had endured. And now he had to explain the inexplicable. They use technology that disrupts psychic connections, he reported, his mental voice steady despite his shame. We had no defense against it. Our strength became our weakness. The neural network that gives us perfect coordination became a liability. When they attacked our minds, we fell apart. And their tactics? Counselor Vexara asked. Chaotic, unpredictable. They move independently with no mental coordination. We could not anticipate their actions because we could not read their thoughts. They are invisible to our primary senses. Another counselor spoke up, anger in his mental tone. Are you saying that an inferior species defeated us simply because they lack the gift? I am saying, Zethral replied carefully, that they are not inferior. Different, yes, but not inferior. Their technology compensates for their lack of psychic ability. And in this case, their lack became an advantage we could not counter. Impossible, the counselor spat. The gift is the mark of true consciousness. Without it, they are nothing. Vexara raised a hand for silence, and yet they won. We must adapt our tactics. Commander, you will lead a new fleet. 10 battle groups, 60,000 ships. We will overwhelm them with numbers. Even with their disruptors, they cannot fight the entire Empire. Zethral felt cold dread in his mind. High Counselor, with respect, I recommend we seek negotiation. The humans proved they can fight. They proved they are intelligent. Perhaps, no. The word came from every counselor simultaneously, a mental command that brooked no argument. The Empire does not negotiate with hollow minds. We will correct this mistake. You will lead the fleet, Commander. You will redeem yourself. Zethral bowed his head. There was no arguing with the council. As you command. On Earth, the celebration lasted exactly 1 day before reality set in. Admiral Kyle Bennett called an emergency meeting with President Linda Grant and the military leadership. Intelligence reports from our long-range sensors, Kyle began. The Empire is mobilizing. We're tracking at least 10 separate fleets heading toward our sector. Thousands of ships. They're coming with everything they have. Linda felt her stomach sink. How long? 2 months. Maybe 3. They're gathering forces from across the Empire. When they arrive, our disruptors won't matter. We'll be buried under sheer numbers. Then we need to evacuate, Linda said. The Exodus Protocol. We need to start loading the colony ships now. Already in progress, Kyle confirmed. We'll save 10,000 people. Out of 8 billion. The silence in the room was heavy. Everyone knew what that meant. Everyone knew they were choosing who lived and who died. Dr. Henry Liu spoke up from his remote connection on Mars. There might be another option. A long shot, but worth considering. We're listening, Linda said. Henry pulled up a star chart. The Empire controls 3,000 systems. That means 3,000 worlds with populations that have lived under Imperial rule. Some have psychic abilities. Some probably don't. The Empire maintains control through the belief that psychic ability equals superiority. But we just proved that's wrong. What if we tell them that? What do you mean? Kyle asked. I mean, we broadcast our victory. We show every world in the Empire that non-psychic beings beat the Velkara. We plant doubt. We start a revolution of ideas. If enough worlds question the Empire's authority, maybe they can't afford to send their entire fleet against us. They'll need ships to maintain control at home. Linda considered this. It's psychological warfare, but even if it works, it might make them more determined to destroy us. They're already sending 10 fleets, Henry pointed out. How much more determined can they get? Captain Jake Morrison volunteered immediately when he heard about the plan. You need someone to go deep into Empire space and broadcast the message. The Horizon can do it. We're fast. We've already proven we can fight their ships and my crew is willing. Amy Chen stood beside him. We're all willing. If Earth falls, at least we'll have left a mark on the Empire. At least we'll have changed something. Linda looked at the young captain and his determined crew. They knew it was a suicide mission. They volunteered anyway. How could she say no? Make it count, she said simply. Make them remember us. The Horizon left Earth orbit a week later, along with 4 other ships that volunteered for the mission. They carried a message encoded in every format humanity could devise. Video, audio, text, mathematical proofs of human intelligence, demonstrations of human technology. Everything needed to prove that non-psychic species could achieve greatness. As they jumped toward Empire space, Lieutenant Commander Paul Stevens commanded the defense fleet preparing Earth's final stand. Defensive satellites were deployed around every major city. Ground-based weapons were positioned. Shelters were reinforced. And in secret locations around the world, 12 colony ships were being loaded with humanity's last hope. Scientists, engineers, doctors, teachers, and children. If Earth fell, humanity would survive somewhere among the stars. Inside the Empire, the news of the impending invasion fleet reached the subject worlds. For many species, it was just another imperial action. But for the non-psychic species, the ones who had lived as second-class citizens for generations, the news of humanity's victory was something different. It was hope. On the industrial world of Nexvar, a species called the Grensk had served the Empire for 500 years. They built ships and weapons for the Velkara. Despite having no psychic abilities themselves, they had accepted their place as lesser beings because they had no choice, until they heard about the humans. Worker Zaxxon gathered with his colleagues in secret, sharing what little information they could obtain. Hollow Minds defeated a Velkara battle group. Creatures like us. If they can fight, why can't we? The Empire will crush them, another Grensk said. 10 fleets are gathering. The humans will be destroyed. Maybe, Zaxxon agreed. But they proved something first. They proved we're not inferior. The Empire lied to us. All these years they told us we were less because we lacked the gift. But these humans built ships, built weapons, built a civilization without psychic powers. Just like us, the idea spread. Not rebellion, not yet, but doubt, questions. What if the Empire was wrong? What if the gift wasn't the only path to intelligence? High Counselor Vexara felt the disturbance growing in the collective consciousness. Unrest on a dozen worlds, whispers of doubt on 100 more. The humans had been defeated in battle, yet somehow they were winning something far more dangerous, the war of ideas. We must destroy them completely, one counselor insisted. No survivors, no traces. We must prove that hollow minds cannot stand against the Empire. But Vexara was not so certain. In her 10,000 years, she had seen empires rise and fall. She had seen civilizations flourish and collapse, and she recognized the signs of change. Send the fleets, she ordered, but be prepared for the possibility that this is not a simple military problem. The humans have challenged our fundamental beliefs. A victory in battle may not be enough. In orbit around Earth, Jake Morrison's small fleet made their final jump toward the Empire's core worlds. They had a message to deliver, and not much time to deliver it before the Empire's forces caught them. 2 months, Jake said to his crew. We have 2 months to make enough noise that the Empire can't ignore us. We're going to broadcast humanity's message to every world we can reach. We're going to show them what we are. And if we're lucky, we'll buy Earth enough time to survive. Amy smiled grimly. And if we're not lucky? Then we make sure they remember us anyway. The fleet jumped into hyperspace, racing toward a destiny none of them would survive. But their sacrifice would shake the foundations of an empire that had ruled for millennia. On Earth, President Linda Grant looked up at the stars and whispered a prayer for the brave fools heading into the void. Then she turned her attention back to the evacuation plans and defense preparations. 2 months until the Empire arrived. 2 months to prepare for the end of everything or the beginning of something new. The galaxy held its breath and waited. Captain Jake Morrison's fleet emerged from hyperspace in the heart of Empire territory. Around them, the stars belonged to the Velkara. Thousands of worlds lay within reach, billions of minds connected in psychic networks that spanned the galaxy. And into this network humanity was about to scream. "Begin transmission," Jake ordered. "All frequencies, all channels. Show them who we are." The message burst across space in every format. The video showed Earth, beautiful and blue. It showed human cities, human art, human technology. It showed Dr. Henry Liu explaining mathematics without telepathy. It showed Admiral Kyle Bennett commanding a fleet through voice and determination. It showed humanity in all its flawed, glorious, non-psychic reality, and with the message came proof. Undeniable proof that intelligence did not require the gift. That consciousness could exist without psychic abilities. That the Empire's fundamental belief was wrong. On the Grensk homeworld of Nexvar, worker Zaxxon watched the human broadcast with tears in his eyes. His people had built ships for the Empire for 500 years, always believing they were inferior, always accepting their place as lesser beings. Now he saw creatures just like him, creating wonders without the gift. "We were lied to," he said to the crowd gathered around him. "For generations they told us we were nothing. But look at them, look at what they built. If they can do this, so can we." The idea spread like fire through dry grass. Within hours, Nexvar erupted in protests. Workers walked off assembly lines. Ships stopped being built. The Grensk demanded recognition as full citizens of the Empire. And they were not alone. On 12 other worlds, non-psychic species watched the human broadcast and felt the same awakening. They had lived as servants, as workers, as second-class citizens. Now they saw proof that their status was based on lies, not truth. High Counselor Vexara felt the Empire fracturing in the collective consciousness. Unrest on a dozen worlds became unrest on 50, then 100. The psychic network that held the Empire together was filling with dissent, with questions, with doubt. "Shut down the transmission," one counselor demanded. "Block it before it spreads further." "Too late," Vexara replied. "It has already reached every major world. The damage is done. The humans have weaponized ideas. Then we destroy them faster. Commander Zethral's fleet is ready. Send them now." Commander Zethral stood on the bridge of his new flagship, leading 10 battle groups toward human space. 60,000 ships, hundreds of thousands of crew members, all connected in the largest psychic network ever assembled. It should have felt powerful. Instead, Zethral felt doubt. He had listened to the human broadcast. He had seen their cities, their technology, their art. He had looked into Captain Morrison's eyes during their first meeting and seen something he had dismissed at the time. Intelligence. Purpose. Consciousness. The humans were not hollow minds. They never had been. The Empire had been wrong, but orders were orders. The fleet jumped toward Earth, carrying enough firepower to crack continents. Jake Morrison knew they were coming. His small fleet had jumped from system to system, broadcasting their message and staying just ahead of pursuing Velkara ships. They had visited 10 worlds, sparked protests on 5, and now they were being hunted. "Multiple contacts," Amy Chen reported. "At least 50 ships converging on our position. We can't outrun them all." Jake looked at his crew. They had known this moment would come. They had come anyway. "Did the message get through?" he asked. "Everywhere we've been," Amy confirmed. "The Empire can't stop it. It's spreading through their own networks now. Every world is talking about the humans who proved they were wrong." "Then we did what we came to do." Jake opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Morrison. We've completed our mission. The Empire knows about us now. They know they were wrong about non-psychic species. Whatever happens next, we change the galaxy. Be proud of that." The Velkara ships closed in. Jake's fleet tried to fight, tried to run, but there were too many enemies. One by one, the human ships were destroyed. The Defiant went first, its hull breached by overwhelming fire. Then the Courage, then the Liberty. The Horizon lasted longest, dodging and weaving through enemy fire, but eventually the damage was too much. Jake held Amy's hand as alarms screamed around them. Not a bad way to go, Amy said. Changing an empire. Could have been worse, Jake agreed. Could have surrendered. The final missile hit. The Horizon exploded in a flash of light that faded quickly in the cold of space. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew died together, surrounded by stars they had helped set free, but their message lived on. On Earth, Admiral Kyle Bennett watched the enemy fleet arrive. 60,000 ships filled the sky, blotting out the stars. Every defensive satellite, every weapon, every ship humanity had left stood ready. It would not be enough. It could never be enough. All ships, stand ready, Kyle ordered. We fight to the last. We show them that humans do not surrender. President Linda Grant stood in the command bunker, watching the tactical displays. The colony ships had already launched, carrying 10,000 people toward distant stars. They would survive, even if Earth fell. Humanity would continue. She opened a global broadcast, speaking to the 8 billion people who remained. This is President Grant. The enemy has arrived. We will fight with everything we have. If we fall, remember that we fought for our freedom, for our right to exist. Remember that we proved we were not animals. Remember that we changed the galaxy. Whatever happens, humanity survives. We survive in our children on the colony ships. We survive in the ideas we spread across the empire. We survive because we refuse to be forgotten. In the Velkara fleet, Commander Zethral prepared to give the order to fire. His ships outnumbered the humans 1,000 to 1. This would not be a battle. It would be an execution. But then he felt something through the psychic network. Hesitation, doubt, his own crews questioning the orders. They had seen the human broadcast. They had witnessed the protests on non-psychic worlds. Some were wondering if this was right. High Counselor Vexara felt it too. The Empire was fracturing. If they destroyed Earth now, the protests would become rebellions. Non-psychic worlds would see it as proof that the Empire feared the truth. The violence would spread, but if they did not destroy Earth, they would appear weak. The Empire would crumble from within. Vexara made a decision that would change galactic history. She disconnected from the collective network and traveled to Earth alone in a single small ship, unarmed and unescorted. Hold fire, she commanded the fleet. I will speak with the humans. President Linda Grant received the message with shock. The leader of the entire empire wanted to negotiate. After everything, after the battles and the deaths and the threats, they wanted to talk. Linda met High Counselor Vexara on neutral ground, in a small station between Earth and the waiting fleets. The ancient alien looked at the human president with eyes that had seen 10,000 years of history. You have broken something that cannot be repaired, Vexara said simply. The Empire was built on the belief that psychic ability equals consciousness. You have proven this belief false. Non-psychic species across the Empire are demanding rights, demanding recognition. We can destroy Earth, but we cannot destroy your ideas. They have already spread too far. Then why are you here? Linda asked. Because you have shown us something we did not want to see. Intelligence takes many forms. Consciousness exists in ways we did not recognize. We were wrong. The question now is, do we adapt or do we fall? Linda felt the weight of 8 billion lives resting on her answer. What are you proposing? Change. Real change. The Empire becomes something new, not based on psychic superiority, but on true equality. All species, psychic or not, recognized as conscious beings. Your people help us rebuild what you broke. And if we refuse? Vexara's expression was sad. Then we destroy each other. My fleet crushes Earth. Your ideas crush my empire. Everyone loses. Linda thought of Jake Morrison and his crew, dying in deep space to spread a message. She thought of the billions on Earth who stood ready to fight. She thought of the 10,000 on colony ships, carrying humanity's future to the stars. We want 3 things. Linda said. First, Earth remains independent. We govern ourselves. Second, all species in your empire get the same offer. Freedom or partnership, their choice. Third, no retaliation against the worlds that protested. They were right to question you. That is the end of the empire as it exists, Vexara replied. Yes, but it's the beginning of something better. You call it the Galactic Coalition, built on cooperation, not domination, on respect, not superiority, on the idea that all conscious beings have value regardless of their abilities. Vexara was silent for a long time. In her 10,000 years, she had seen countless civilizations. Most fell to war or stagnation. Very few evolved into something new. This was humanity's offer, painful transformation instead of comfortable death. Very well, the High Counselor said finally. The Velkara Dominion ends today. The Galactic Coalition begins. But know this, the transition will be difficult. Not everyone will accept change. There will be resistance, violence, suffering. We know, Linda replied. Change is never easy, but it's necessary. The news spread across 3,000 worlds. The Empire was dead. The Coalition was born. Non-psychic species celebrated, some psychic.